Hello, welcome to another edition of Latino Paradox. I'm Arnold Torres, policy consultant on Latino issues for the last 35 years, and with me is the distinguished Ruben Navarrette, syndicated columnist. Ruben, this week, very active week. We found the discussion on affirmative action that was kind of given less attention, but that's going to be our topic for today. The Trump administration decided to go after affirmative action and so start a review of affirmative action programs throughout U.S. Universities. They used the pretext of wanting to look into these programs because of discrimination against Asians, when in fact the agenda is really looking at white students, the concept of reverse discrimination. So in the context of what we do in Latino Paradox, who are we in the context of this initiative by the Trump administration and the Department of Justice?
I think we are people who are wedded to concepts. We're incredibly brand loyal, and we've been around the concept of affirmative action for 57 years, roughly. It's older than I am. I'm 50 years old, and affirmative action is older than I am. It dates back to I was born during the Johnson administration, but affirmative action was born during the Kennedy administration, when President John Kennedy, through an executive order, said that companies that want to do business with the federal government should take affirmative action to make sure that their, workforce was diverse, inclusive.
Yeah.
Then it was built upon by LBJ. And basically the idea of affirmative action is that we should be able to take race into account, race and ethnicity really into account, because Latinos are an ethnicity, into account when doling out either government contracts or college admissions or jobs. And you're right. In this case, the issue of the day, the issue of the week is really college admissions and the contention that some people have, including some in the Trump administration and Jeff Sessions, our Attorney General, that whites are being systematically discriminated against in favor of less qualified minority applicants. It's absolutely and totally a fairy tale. It's not true. There's no such thing as reverse discrimination. And we can prove it very easily because at all these college campuses, you will find plenty of white people walking around. So obviously, they're white. The fact that they're white didn't keep them out. So we are, to answer your question, we are a group of people that have become very brand loyal to the idea of affirmative action. In fact, to the point where we no longer really understand it or can defend it, but we know we like it.
I think we're, again, generations, because you said 57 years. There's been there's been at least 2 generations now that have been a part of this concept. It's never really worked the way I think people intended it to work. We are a people that were clearly left out of so many institutions in American society. The attempt was to try to be more inclusive using the concept and the idea of affirmative action. And it worked on one hand, but at the same time, it didn't work. We were always labeled, you were here because of affirmative action. And it was very difficult on that side. But at the same time, it did create opportunities that I don't believe otherwise would have been created. I don't think that anyone really suffered, because I didn't see that anybody who was non-minority was working to become Hispanic or Black or any other minority group, Asian in that case, in many instances as well. But I think now we're a community that is still now very much confused about affirmative action. Does it really work? Because the data doesn't tell us that we're in huge numbers graduating from college,
Right.
Getting these big jobs, integrating
Right.
every aspect of society.
Right.
So I think there's a tremendous amount of debate still about affirmative action and who we are as Latinos in this country. Second question we always ask is, what do we want? I'll start off. I think what we want is equal opportunity. We really would like to have that concept. I don't think that we like being included just because we are from a certain background. I think we feel that kind of really lessens who we are as a people. I think we would love to be able to see the systems of education, the systems of employment being fair to begin with, and not waiting to have to do something at the end or at the end of the process. Let's start at the beginning of the process on the front end by being more inclusive, by having better education, by having better programs and better policies
Right.
that are inclusive to begin with. And that's not what we have, but I believe that's what we would want.
Yeah, I believe we want 3 things. One is the one you mentioned: equal opportunity, maximum number of opportunity, and the amount of opportunity, and also the sense that we have the same opportunities as other kids, other people. We want our kids to have the same opportunities as other people's kids. And we don't want to think that because we belong to a certain town or community or population that somehow we're at a disadvantage. Secondly, we want respect. We always want respect when we're dealing with politics. Latinos are all about respect. We're all about respect, though, and the importance there. And we want respect. We don't want to be thought of less than because we're Latino firemen or Latino policemen who may have gotten in these programs because of affirmative action. Granted, something that happened much more in the 60s and 70s, particularly in the 70s, than happens today. We're in a whole different arena now where many of us who get those jobs, you see Latino FBI agents, Latino federal judges, and you look at their resumes and their records, and it speaks for themselves. They've done fine. Again, a new generation comes along. Your kids and my kids probably will not, need these kinds of benefits in the way that previous generations did. And there'll be a debate about whether class is an issue. Lastly, the last thing we want, Arnold, is a sense of accountability. We don't like the idea that, as you just put it very well, that we're being offered affirmative action as a substitute for what we really need and really want, and that's real education at the K through 12 level.
Right.
We are very suspicious that we were being bought off with a certain number of spots at UC Berkeley, and in return being shortchanged on the other end, so that many more Latino kids never get a chance to even go to City College, and that's what we're concerned about.
Last question: what are we doing wrong? You go ahead and begin.
What we're doing wrong is we've gotten so wrapped up in the defensive mode of fighting against the Trump people of the world to say we want to defend affirmative action. We haven't asked ourselves a simple question: is affirmative action worth defending? We should get all the Latinos together in a room with no white people there and just say we're going to concede two things. First of all, there's no such thing as a white victim of affirmative action. Got it? Everybody says yeah. The second question is we're going to decide whether we want to do away with this program on our own, because it's been hurting us, because it's been harming us, because it's been covering and cloaking real educational inequalities at the K through 12 level. So if we decide that we want to do away with affirmative action or racial preferences because they're hurting intended beneficiaries, that is a worthwhile discussion. We should not be afraid to have it. That's my view. In fact, I don't support the idea of reverse discrimination. I don't think white men are being discriminated against. I do think affirmative action hurts intended beneficiaries. It's doing us more harm than good.
Well, I don't think that we ever had a say in the creation of affirmative action to begin with. So that's a concept that kind of we fell into. I don't think that affirmative action should really apply to Latino children who are in the middle class or in the upper class just because of the last name. I do believe that affirmative action should be more inclusive of people who don't have those opportunities because of their social, because of their economic standing. I do believe that affirmative action should be applied to people based on their economic standing. I think that's very, very vital. But I do believe, as you said, that the most important thing is that let's quit dealing with the back end of the issue. Let's start dealing with the front end. Right. If we did things the right way in the front end, we wouldn't need things at the back end. We wouldn't need remedial efforts. And that's what affirmative action has come to be for too many people. And that's not right, and that's not fair. And that's what creates the issue. We really have never talked about what the ideal situation is and what could we be doing to work in that direction. We simply accept what has kind of been there and we say, okay, we're going on, and then we defend it. And it's not always defensible the way people want to present it. So I think those are the things that we're doing wrong, and it's they're obvious. And I wish that we could move in that direction sooner than later. Ruben, I thank you again. I'm thanking all of the people that watch us. I hope that they'll comment on this discussion. It's a discussion that is going to be with us for many, many more years. I would say for at least another generation. Thank you very much, people. I appreciate it, and thank you, Ruben, and we'll see you next time.